Direct Connection is made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities and is made possible by the generous support of our members. Thank you. Live from Maryland Public Television, this is Direct Connection with Jeff Salkin.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in for Direct Connection. Coming up tonight, the latest treatment breakthroughs in the fight against breast cancer. That's ahead. First tonight, the attack on worshipers at a synagogue in Pittsburgh is no isolated incident. Maryland sees an average of one reported hate crime every day and saw a 35% increase in reports in the latest annual study. Joining us in the studio are Alvin Gillard, Executive Director of the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights, and Howard Libet, Executive Director of the Baltimore Jewish Council. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having us.
I want to start with a quote that caught my eye. This was from a member of one of the congregations in Pittsburgh who went to court today to see the perpetrator being arraigned. And the quote was, "It was not the face of villainy that I thought we would see." In other words, it was an ordinary-looking person.
Unfortunately, the faces of hate can be almost anyone. Not all of them are a face like Charles Manson's with swastikas carved in their forehead. It can be neighbors. It can be people unsuspecting, and that's why it's important for the rest of us to come together.
Alvin, please.
No, and I really think that's what's so troubling, not just Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh could be Baltimore, Baltimore could be Charlottesville. It can happen anywhere, and the folks who are engaging in this type of behavior are your neighbors, oftentimes your friends, your co-workers. So there is no particular profile that we can point to say that this is hate. We have seen over the last few years that it comes in all shapes, all forms. And
it's been increasing. Does that bear up?
Absolutely. The numbers show that for the last 4 years, we've seen increases annually in the state of Maryland and throughout the nation. Now, there was a period prior to that where the numbers were actually going down. But since 2015, we've seen the numbers increase yearly.
You know, I saw that in the Baltimore Sun about 10 days ago, had a lengthy, excellent story on bias incidents, hate crimes in Maryland. And the chart they had showed a decline from the early part of this century. Mm-hmm. So the early 2000s, the numbers were higher actually than they are now, came down and now going back up.
But I think you'd agree too, Alvin, the numbers are way underreported.
That's right.
That people don't instinctively say when they see graffiti on their garage, I'm going to necessarily call the police or call somebody else to report it. I'm just going to wash it off. I want to get rid of it because I don't want the children in my neighborhood to see this. I don't want my neighbor who may be Jewish to see this and feel intimidated. So there's a lot of community efforts to stamp it out very quickly without necessarily reporting it to authorities. And I think it's important to report. I also think it's really important that the community stands up like that, and we see that on our block. Our neighbors are just as appalled as we are if we're the target, and they want to get rid of it quickly.
In addition to that, when one does call the police, or at least this had been the history, or law enforcement in whatever form, because of a lack of training, individuals were actually turned off because that responding officer didn't really know how to identify what was a hate bias act. So the individual who was victimized felt that they were being victimized again. So when these kind of acts continued, they would not call law enforcement.
I want to get your thoughts on some of the possible drivers of this. I mean, typically you see, I think, an increase in this sort of stuff in bad economic times. Mm-hmm. People are out of work. They're looking for somebody to blame, and they blame the other. But that's not now. Mm-hmm. We do have this sort of semi-toxic political environment. Mm-hmm. We have a hyperactive media environment. And then there's the issue of social media and extremist websites allowing these people to
find each other.
Congregate.
That's right. And I think you've hit on what some of the triggers are, because we can't deny, when we look at the numbers, when we go back to 2015, 2016, when the national election cycle began, and the incivility, the heightened rhetoric that became a part of that campaign, what we see now did not happen in a vacuum. And I think all of these things have helped to contribute to what we see now. I just don't think we can deny it any longer.
It's a real coarsening of our political rhetoric. And I think it's fueled, as you said, by social media too. The anonymity that you can have online to say these really hateful things. The Jewish members of the media who get swamped at times with anti-Semitic attacks on Twitter and in other forms of social media, done often by people who are essentially anonymous. And how do you stop that? But people feel emboldened.
And I was struck by the fact that the perpetrator in Pittsburgh was on what apparently was a site that tracks this, specializes in this, but using his own name, with his own picture, might as well have said, "Come and get me."
But as much as we hate what he says, there is still this whole free speech. Like until you can't necessarily arrest someone because they say anti-Semitic things online, as much as you might like to. I mean, we recognize that. At the same time, you need to watch them. You need to be aware of them. And then as soon as they cross the line into vandalism or other direct attacks on people, or God forbid what happened this past Shabbat, that's where everything breaks through.
Well, and you also don't see the same type of public condemnation that we used to see. So these folks feel safe and okay to express their views, no matter how threatening those views may be. And the other thing that I want to add too is that in this particular instance, we're talking about religion, but the highest number of victims of hate bias incidents are African Americans. That has not changed.
Right. And it's anti-Semitic stuff right behind it. Right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Religion is second, and then sexual orientation is
right.
third.
And I shouldn't just say anti-Semitic, anti-Muslim, and other groups.
There's an amazing need for all of us to stand together in solidarity, because really what the group that's targeted today needs to stand with the group that's targeted tomorrow, because we all have to be one community. And in the last couple of days, I have heard from so many other faith partners and other communities making sure we're okay, seeing what they can do. Seeing a number of representatives at the big gathering we had Sunday morning, it really, and it makes a difference because you feel like the community is with you.
You had the gathering Sunday morning. What else is the Jewish community here doing in response? So
a couple of tracks. Number one is there are a number of different congregations and other groups are holding vigils throughout the week. I think tonight there's one at Hopkins, there's one at UMBC, there's one at the one nearby congregation, Towson. So this weekend, the Associated is organizing a Solidarity Shabbat, in which we are encouraging Jews from across the region, go to synagogue, show that we're not going to be intimidated by the hateful act that occurred last Shabbat, and encouraging people to go to your synagogue. If you don't belong, go to a synagogue for services. And then on a broader level, of course, we're spending a lot of time talking about security too, and the security of our institutions, our schools, our synagogues, our other communal places. We've invested hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, probably since 9/11, on hardening the targets, upgrading infrastructure, fencing, cameras, to doors and personnel. But you always have to keep reevaluating and reassessing.
Alvin, last thing before we go, what do you want people to do when they're aware of a bias incident? And at what point does somebody call the authorities and say, I know of this individual, he or she is making threats, has guns, whatever?
I think that the public should always reach out and contact their local law enforcement, but they should also contact us at the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights, and they can reach us through the state's website. It's important that we employ all of these best practices: immediate public condemnation, the community response that Howard talked about, but I think most importantly, we've learned that if you don't attend to these issues in a consistent, committed way, they won't go away on their own. It takes us to be diligent in making sure that we speak out every time an incident like this occurs.
Alvin Gillard and Howard Libet, gentlemen, thanks very much.
Thanks,
Thank
Jeff.
you, Jeff.
Still to come, the latest information on breast cancer. We'll be right back.
Got an unused vehicle going nowhere? Donate it to the one place that can take you any place. Visit mpt.org/vehicles and support the programs you love on MPT.
The MPT app puts our programs right at your fingertips, so you can choose when to watch, what to watch, wherever you want to watch it. Download it now.
Are you turning 70 and a half this year? If so, you generally have to start spending down your retirement account. Even the minimum distribution can place you in a sticky situation. Luckily, you can now use your IRA to make tax-free gifts. Gifts up to $100,000 will never count as income, but always make a difference. That's icing on the cake.
Make your gift for this year before December 31st. Visit mpt.org/support.
This is a box that showed you a world beyond your own. It was just a box, but the world has changed, and so have we. And now the box can be almost any size or shape. And you decide what you want to explore. Anytime, any place. Break out of the box with PBS.
Tonight's Your Health segment, we are joined by Dr. Cynthia Dragula, Assistant Professor of Surgery at the University of Maryland School of Medicine and breast surgeon and medical director of the ILO Breast Center at the University of Maryland's Baltimore Washington Medical Center. Doctor, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the importance of catching this early. All you do is breast surgeries.
That's
Why
right.
is it important?
That's right. Early detection helps women limit the consequences of a breast cancer diagnosis. When a woman catches her cancer smaller, she's less likely to require medications, more extensive surgery, sometimes radiation, and it makes her treatment program much more kind and gentle on her.
You're not happy to see any breast cancer, but you're happier when it's a little one.
It certainly makes our job easier.
Yeah.
That being said, there are some women who sometimes come in with diseases at a stage that's more advanced than we like. They've been simply too afraid, or maybe they were confused as far as what they should do, or they felt they had nowhere to turn. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a potential for cure, and we encourage them all to come in.
Well, let's talk about how to catch it early.
Sure.
What's the best method?
I'm glad you asked, because since the United States Preventative Services Task Force came out with a change in the guidelines, women have been very confused about what the screening recommendations are. And I can understand that, because the different organizations themselves are not in agreement. It's a time where a woman should really speak to her doctor first and figure out, is she someone who is average risk or high risk?
What makes you high risk? Family history?
Family history, certain hormonal changes in lifetime, fewer pregnancies, no breastfeeding opportunities, those sorts of things can make you higher risk. Because guidelines do not apply to high-risk women. They have their own set of guidelines. In general, I'd like to say that any woman who's over 40 should never be discouraged from having a mammogram. It still remains our best screening tool for detecting breast cancer early. That being said, some of the guidelines are starting to change to first mammogram at 45 instead of 40 for average risk women.
Has mammography changed?
It has. the technology has improved, just like if you think about what your phone camera can do and how much better the image quality is. We have the same with mammography in the addition of tomosynthesis.
What is that?
Also known as 3D.
Okay.
For the mammograms, gives us additional slices or cuts of images, which enables the radiologist to find things that are very subtle and may not turn up on the regular tube views.
Are these images compared year to year or from one to the next? So do you want to go to the same imaging center? Do you want to be on similar technology if you can help it?
Optimal. It's optimal, certainly, if you can. Women sometimes move. Sometimes their insurance changes, and they end up at different facilities. If they are having a major move, they can pick up their old films and have them on a disc, and that should be part of their planning, along with packing up their dishes to take to their new site.
Let me remind our viewers, if you have a question about breast cancer prevention and treatment, give us a call. The number is going to be on the screen. You can also email your questions to livequestions@mpt.org, livequestions@mpt.org. Mammograms used to be, at least, notorious for throwing off a lot of false positives, creating a lot of fear, maybe some unnecessary biopsies. Still the case?
In certain populations, they can, because women who are particularly dense-breasted can have false alarms, or women who are younger can have some natural occurring changes that makes their mammograms more difficult to read. That being said, the improved technology with higher resolution and particularly with the three-dimensional imaging has reduced the number of callbacks that women get.
Self-examination, how important?
So that also has changed. We used to drill into women they should be doing this every month, and the women felt ashamed because it's a hard thing to remember to do anything like that on a timely basis. Plus, it didn't seem to improve survival rates, and it did lead to false alarms. So now we recommend a sense of general awareness for a woman to know what's normal for her. And if there's something that is different, or if she feels has changed, she should certainly bring it to attention of her doctor.
What do women tell you when somebody is referred and they have that history, that they found it? Mm-hmm. Was it something that snuck up on them? They thought there was maybe something different, but subtle changes, you're not sure.
Some women feel, everything feels like a lump, but this one just felt different. Or they'll say, I was in the shower, and all of a sudden, oh my goodness, I couldn't believe it. It was there.
Wow. Let's take a phone call. Baltimore City, this is Dina. Dina, thank you for the call. Go ahead.
Yes. Can you please tell us about other alternatives in lieu of the standard old-fashioned mammogram? I know there's 3D and there's some other testing that is now approved out there. Could you please tell us about that, Dr. Jarella?
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Sure. So each of the imaging modalities that are available have their own strengths, and none of them works alone. A screening mammogram, which is the traditional digital, has a lot less radiation than they did 20 years ago when they were trying to develop a piece of film. It's the gold standard. 3D takes additional images and with that is able to reduce callback and increases detection. Ultrasounds are used to target in a little bit more on a finding that you might have from that mammogram. And finally, MRIs are used in certain situations to kind of get more of a roadmap or exclude disease.
Let's take a call from Baltimore County. This is Grace. Grace, thank you for the call. Go ahead. You're on. What's your question?
Hello. My question is, I'm 78. And my primary care doctor said I don't have to bother with mammograms anymore. I want to know how specialists feel about that.
That's a great question. Glad you called. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic question, actually. So the task force did recommend that maybe over the age of 70 or 75 years, women didn't need to have mammograms, that maybe there wasn't a lot of data for that. I think that when you look at 75-year-olds, they come in all different health status. Some are doing terrific. Some have accumulated a few medical problems over the years. So I think if you look at a woman and you say, you know what, is she going to be around in 10 years? I think she should have a mammogram, because a breast cancer diagnosis, it's a slow cancer typically, and that could change your quality of life or comfort during that time. If a woman has severe medical problems and really every day is a struggle, I think maybe the mammography doesn't have that much to add.
How much has your work in the operating room changed over the last decade or so? Different techniques?
It has. We are all the time trying to make breast cancer more palatable. Our goal ultimately is survival and reducing the risk of breast cancer coming back. But also we're trying to make it so that the women live well. We don't want them just to live longer, but also live well. So there has been a pendulum shift back to more breast-conserving surgery, which I like to see, and improving the number of women who are actually candidates for breast-conserving surgery as well.
Email question from a gentleman who says his father-in-law had breast cancer. What can you say about the disease in men? Do you see many men in your practice?
We do. 1% of all breast cancer in the United States occurs in men. And if you think of there being 300,000 cases of breast cancer every year, that's a lot of men facing a new diagnosis. As far as the treatment, it's similar and different in different ways. Men in general tend to have mastectomy rather than lumpectomy just because it doesn't make as much of an lack of symmetry between the two sides for them. They do tend to present at a later stage because they aren't getting mammograms, and sometimes they don't realize that this lump in their chest could be a tumor. So they do tend to come in a little bit a higher stage than women.
Does it run in families in men?
Absolutely, and any man or woman who has a male member in their family tree who had a breast cancer is a red flag. Maybe someone who should pursue genetic testing for a hereditary form of breast cancer.
What's known about the genetic testing? I mean, we read in the news that there's some notable celebrities
Sure.
who've had double mastectomies, prophylactically, preventatively, because of this gene.
Certainly. We've known about BRCA, BRCA1 and 2 for decades now at this point. They are people who carry that really do have an exceedingly high risk of developing breast cancers, and because they often will get multiple right, left, right breast cancers, that if it's quite reasonable for someone who has that mutation to do a prophylactic double mastectomy. The benefit to that additional surgery drops off with lesser mutations. And there's some mutations now we know that they may put a person at risk for breast cancer, but the value of doing all that extended surgery as far as preventing early death is not known yet.
How do you approach the cosmetic side of it in terms of being able to rapidly get to the stage where either, I don't know if it's possible same day, but to rebuild and restore what was lost?
Yes, certainly it is possible to do this in the same day. And it's almost unheard of for us actually to come back at a later date to do reconstructive surgery. I work very closely with reconstructive surgeons, plastic surgeons who have a special interest in breast reconstruction. And the first stage or the entire reconstruction is often done on the same day of surgery.
Is it done by two surgeons?
I do the cancer part, and then the plastic surgeon is there to do the reconstructive part. But because we work so well together, I plan my surgery, my incisions, whether we'll be sparing the nipple or not, in concert with my plastic surgeon.
Other risk factors, I mean, we talked about genetics, but smoking is always
Sure.
labeled as a risk factor
Sure.
for almost everything, in this case as well.
A little bit for breast. Some of the big risk factors, like your family, you can't pick them. You can't change getting older, and you can't go back and have 10 kids. But
That's helpful?
The more
Kids are
having
helpful?
children actually are, and breastfeeding is protective as well. But as far as risk factors that we actually can do quite a bit about is avoiding being overweight. Women who get out and walk 3 days a week, 30 minutes, they have an extremely high benefit in reduction of breast cancer, much more than you would think, up to 30% less breast cancer just from getting out and taking a walk 3 days a week.
How about hormones, whether in the context of hormone replacement therapy, which is its own controversy, or hormones used as an oral contraceptive?
Right. So oral contraceptives have been felt generally to be safe. They've been looked into the early 40s, and that is something that I think most of us are comfortable with. As far as the added use of hormone replacement therapy, some of these studies, I think, may never be answered. After the Women's Health Initiative showed a slight bump in breast cancers in women taking hormones, after 4 years, the study was halted. I don't think we'll ever know that if the study was allowed to continue for 10 years, the curves of the women on and off of hormones might have come back to the same point again. I think that what is happening now is maybe handing out hormones like candy after menopause without symptoms. Maybe should be, you have to look at a family history instead. Bone density, I think that probably it's like any other prescription, you should have a good reason for using them.
I just have a minute. Let's end with the screening recommendations.
Sure.
What's the latest for somebody at normal risk?
So I think that it depends on who you ask. If you ask the surgeons, American Cancer Society, OBGYN, you'll get a different answer.
Well,
Anybody
give us
over
your
40.
answer.
Well, I think
You've
it's for
established your
average
expertise
risk.
here. We'll
I
take
think for average risk, 45, annual mammography from 45 into the mid-50s makes a lot of sense to me. I think if you're 40, you should certainly consider having a mammogram. There's no reason absolutely not to. And for women going into their 70s to 75, I think it depends on their health status. If they're good health, they should have a mammogram.
Dr. Cynthia Dragula joining us from the Aiello Breast Center, University of Maryland's Baltimore Washington Medical Center. Doctor, you've been great. Thanks so much for the time. And that is our program for this week. Coming up Thursday on Your Money and Business, what does a growing Fort Meade mean for the region's economy? We'll find out Thursday at 7. Now, for all of us at MPT, I'm Jeff Salkin. Thanks for watching Direct Connection, and have a good night.
Your Health segments are a co-production of Maryland Public Television and the University of Maryland Medical System.
This program was made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities.